One thing to know is if you want to use a CPMS, you will need some browser, and this browser really we have a problem here with the technique. This browser should be either Google Chrome or Firefox. If you use Microsoft browsers, you may run into trouble during using the CPMS. Many functions will work, but some functions like the video conferencing tool will not work. So please make sure that you have Google Chrome or Firefox on your computer to really use the CPMS. Coming back to the agenda, we will have an introduction on how to get authorization to use the CPMS, which will be given by Nils Tickbauer. And if you have any trouble with this, even later on, please contact him and he will show you how to get his email address and how to contact him. And then I'll give a short introduction to the CPMS system navigation using some slides. And all the slides you see will be distributed afterwards. And then we will use the time which is left to really go in a live demo of the CPMS system. We will have some time to answer questions, but we will give presentations and questions, presentation, question, this kind of thing. Otherwise, it's probably too noisy and too loud. So I will now give the word to Nils Tickbauer from Frankfurt, who is also on the help desk. So if you have any trouble, just contact him. I'll try to move this a little away and silence myself now. So Nils.
Okay, hi there, my name is Nils, and I will show you the few steps you have to make if you want to participate in the CPMS system. How can we do it with the slides? With the next slide? Yeah, thanks. First of all, the system is protected by a single sign-on account system called the EU login. Therefore, you have to create an EU login at the web gate at europe.eu as shown in the internet address above the screenshot. So you have to enter the URL above the screenshot in your browser, and you will see a form like the screenshot on this slide. We have to enter your personal data like first name, last name, email, and your preferred language, and you have to fill in a CAPTCHA, and then you can click create an account, and your EU login account should be created then. Yes. After you have done that, you have to request for authorization to use the CPMS system. This is done via the SASS authorization tool. You can access it by the URL. You can see again above the screenshot. There are 4 steps necessary if you want to request the authorization. First, you have to select the desired application, which is in our case the CPMS. In the .dom box there are many applications, but CPMS is one of them. So you have to select CPMS application, and then you can click the green button step 2, where you can select an organization. So if you want to select your organization, this is done in 3 side steps. It is really necessary that you give us 3 informations, otherwise the account cannot be authorized. First, you have to select, in our case, the ERN lung respiratory diseases folder. Therefore, you have to click on the open button and not the radio button. So the open button expands another selection form. When you have clicked the button, on the next slide, You have to choose your country. In our case, the country is Germany, but there's a list of many countries, and you have also a search bar where you can search for a country if you don't find it on the first page. Here, it's also necessary to use the open button again so that you can select the third info we need. And this is your actual hospital. So in our case, the Universitätsklinikum Frankfurt. After you have selected the hospital, you can click again the green button where you can select your access profile. So you have many roles, such as coordinator, dispatcher, or the researcher. And in the description explains what roles have access to the systems tabs you can use, such request handling for assistance on behalf on the coordinator, or create or consult queries or reports on the anonymized data from the ERN. So you can select your roles you want to have, and then you will see a summary on the next slide. Yeah, where you can see all your entered data, and if something is not correct, you can go back to the first steps. If you want to select another organization or your access profile is not okay, you can reselect them. And then you have created that account, and it will be authorized through our system. If your account is authorized after that, you are able to log in at the CPMS system. That's all. Yeah. As you can see, the links to the ASS, etc., are also here listed in the start page of CPMS. Genau. Yeah, for further questions, if something is not working or is going wrong, you can email us or me to this email address, and we will help very shortly.
Yeah, thank you very much, Niels. Are there any questions from the audience? Is it clear how to log into the EU and get authorization to get access to CPMS?
This is Thomas. I have a comment on the roles that you have to click and to activate. It's very important that everyone who wants to join the system clicks the HB button or the click box for HB, that's Health Professional, because this is the only role where you can participate in panels or set up and lead panels. So it's very important that you do not only click coordinator or just researcher, because only if you are a health professional, then you are allowed to participate in the panels. That's very important.
There was one question. It would be good, Niels, to explain a little bit more in detail how to exactly request the EU login, including the code, the app, the mobile phone number you need in order to log into the CPMS in the end.
Yeah, okay. So when you created the EU login, you have to enter your mobile phone number. There are no slides. These are the slides I used a few months ago. It's done, the security is done also by an SMS system. So you have to enter your mobile phone number, and you will get a code via SMS. You have to enter it for a two-factor authentication.
We can try to go through this later on if we go to the live system. I actually logged in already, but I can log out and show how to get into the system in the end. And you will need some additional information to get into that system. Not just a login, but you get a SMS with a code which you have to punch into the system to really make sure you're the guy who's allowed to access.
Right.
Any further questions to this? If there's no further questions, I'll give you a short introduction into the CPMS system navigation. Once you punch in the login URL, you get to this page. Can you see the mouse also moving on the screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you can then click here to log in via EU login, and then you enter some data in order to get into the system. And this we will show once we go to the live system. And once you enter the system, you get this page. And this page actually has several parts. A lot of the parts are really here on the right side, middle and right side, is material to read, to watch, to get used to the CPMS system. So whenever you have questions, you can either go and ask somebody you know who may be able to answer your question, or you can go to this page and just search for whatever you think is important to know. On the left side here, there's 3 buttons, and actually the upper 2 are those buttons we usually use. The same buttons are also up here in the bar, so you can always go to one of these buttons while you are in the CPMS system. So what I usually do, if I want to set up a new patient or go to a panel of one of my patients, I go to the center button. And once I hit the center button, this is what's showing. And this is real data from Würzburg. We have enrolled 2 patients. And if I want to enroll a new patient, I push the button, enroll patient, or I go to this button here. So you see, usually you have more than one button doing the same thing. And if you punch the button enroll patient, you come to a screen where you have to enter data. And the nice thing is all the data you have to enter it are usually marked in red. Yeah, so when you entered everything will not be red anymore, and you can enroll patient. I'm not putting in any data here, but I think it's relatively simple. Sometimes you need dates, and I will come back to that later. You will have to say, yeah, whether I had used some national system to discuss. Yeah, and then you will be asked for the consent of the patient. And there are 2 options. The usual option here is to download a consent form, which is available in many, many languages, which you can give to the patient, and the patient fills in, and then you can say the patient has consented to discuss his case for care reasons, and he has consented to put all the data into a database or registry, and or he consented to be contacted for research purposes related to his disease. For our hospital, we had to discuss all the data protection issues with our local data protection officer. And we, in Würzburg, we changed the consent form a little bit to comply with the German and Bavarian rules. So please make sure and find out whether you can use a consent form from the EU, or whether you need to at least get permission to use it by your local data safety and data protection people. Once you have entered all this here, you can also enter the first name, the last name, the gender of the patient, the date of birth, and give the whole thing a record label. only people working in your hospital will be able to see this information. However, if you have more than one ERN within your hospital, people from the other ERN may be able to see the patients of ERN lung you are enrolling. For Würzburg, this is a problem, so we have an SOP and we are not entering true identifying data here. And whoever is interested, I can share this. This is a special rule, maybe applicable to your site, maybe not. Most sites usually enter all this information here. This information is not shared with other hospitals when you start discussing the patient. This information is just for your eyes only. Once you enroll the patient, you get to the button, open new panel. This is pretty self-explanatory. You hit the button, and then the system asks you to enter data about your patient. You are probably not able to watch all these or to see it because it's very tiny. You can enlarge it on your screen and you will see it later on, which data I've entered. And you also enter not only what the patient has, what the primary complaints are, but you also say, we are really interested in ERN lung, not in one of the other ERNs. In Würzburg, we have 4 ERNs, so I'm not enrolling this patient to a ERN endo or some other ERN, but I want to have him in ERN lung. And then I can say I want to have interstitial lung disease and other rare lung diseases because I just don't know what the patient has. It's a 14-month-old boy we are discussing here. Once you enter all the data, you get to this page. Yeah, you hit the button down here, create panel. And then you have the patient with the data entered. And now you have 2 options. One option is you first select your panel. You ask people to join, to discuss. Or you say, okay, I first want to enter more data. There's a button here, edit data, and you can enter much more data on your patient. What I usually do is I go to invite people, because once you invite people, they have to respond and say, I'm happy to help with this case. And that takes time. So in the time you're waiting for their responses, you can enter more data. So that's why I usually hit the button, invite people. And once you hit the button, which is, go to the next step here. And then you come here to panel selection, who's entering, who's joining. You get a list of people. You can either select first the area you are interested in, like interstitial lung disease, and then select people you want to join your panel by clicking some people, or you can go here and say invite all. There's also an option up here to select a second core network, or even open the list of people of ERN completely. And what I did 2 days ago when I entered this patient for preparing slides and actually discussing the patient, I invited everybody within ERN lung. So whoever has access to ERN lung on the 24th of June, should have received an invitation via email. Once you finish, you see here that I have invited many, many people, and I'm waiting for the response to say I'm happy to join. So now I have time and I can start working here to edit more data. I moved 1 point further and we can hit the button edit now. And once we hit the button edit, we have a whole menu of different data forms where you can enter specific information. Yeah, I'm pretty afraid you are not able to see all this, and I'll try to show you when we are in the live system a little bit more in detail. But this system actually allows you to enter family history, to upload documents, to get a whole pedigree of the family, to explain exactly what symptoms the patient have. You can code the symptomatology or the diagnosis which have been made so far. So you get a whole of information. Just some general ideas of how to enter data there. Yeah, you can always hit the save button, yeah, which is down here, and save your entries. Stop all the entries and start 2 days later. That's no problem. But save. If you don't save, it's gone. Yeah. You can select which data fields you want to open. You don't have to open all data fields. Usually it makes sense to enter as much data as possible, but it takes time to enter all this data. If you have a date you have to enter, yeah, and in some stuff you have dates, not on this one, but we'll see the date button later. Yeah, sometimes the date comes in as a day, month, and year, but sometimes you can only say month and year or just year. Yeah, if you are asked when did the symptomatology start in a 50-year-old. If you don't know what to do, yeah, you can hit the I as a little icon, and that gives you some additional information. And I'll show you later what this will show. This is just a short introduction now. If you want to upload files, and I really like it, and I'll show you how it works. You can upload files, for example, DICOM files. There's a DICOM viewer integrated in the system. You go to the very bottom of this list. This shows, and then you are asked to, yeah, move files into the system. So what I usually do is I have a, yeah, a little window here with the files. This is a CD file with a CT scan. I just take the files and move them over here, and then they will be uploaded into the system, and no names, no nothing connected to them. Very nice feature. But you can also upload pictures of a patient or genetic reports or pulmonary function report, whatever you want. The important information is that you shouldn't have any identifying data on the files you're uploading. Yeah, this is a pseudonymized system because everybody who is joining your panel will be able to see the information. Are there any questions right now? Please remember to unmute your microphone, otherwise you won't be able to talk. If there's no questions there, I will now move to the live system, and I probably will have to log out because the system will probably remember me. Exactly, that's what happened. I will log out now. And usually we should be, no, it's still logging me in. I'm sorry. I will close this and we start the whole thing again. You see, I'm using Google Chrome, but you may also use Firefox. I hope it doesn't remember me now because I was logged in before. Here we are. So this is what you need to log into the system. You need a password, which you set up before. And I usually use a mobile phone SMS to log into the system, but you have different options. Yeah, there are tokens. I don't know how you get a token, and there's a EU login mobile app PIN code. No idea how that works. What I do is I use the mobile phone and SMS. I have to enter my mobile phone number. I sign in, and then they send a code via SMS to my system. It just arrives. Sometimes it takes a minute or two. It's a one-time only code each time. Sometimes you have a spelling mistake there, sometimes not. And then you hit sign in, and there we are. Now we are logged into the system, and you remember the screen because I showed you the screenshot before. And I will now move to the center, but I can also show you briefly what is in the ERN. The ERN tells you whether I have panel invitations, whether there are any urgent panels I should be doing. Yeah, I get some messages from the system where I'm supposed to do something, which is not really urgent. I can go to panels, and this is all the panels which have been created so far. Most of them have been signed off or in panel selection. Our mail 001, which is a panel we are looking at later on. I can go to task lists. These are my panels, which I need to work on. My meetings, I don't have a meeting invitation right now. Webinars, we are right now in the webinar. So I'm moving back now to the general page or to the center login. I have enrolled a patient already, so I'm not showing you the enrolled patient. I'm going to the patient list where my 2 patients from Würzburg are available, and we select the patient I entered yesterday. And you may or may not remember this screen. I will show you a little bit more about entering data. So I go to the edit to enter the data. And I think it's a little bit easier to see, but I will enlarge this now a little bit more. Yeah, you can select different points here, to open forms to enter data. Our patient is Taki Pnöck. He's less than 1.5 years old. On CT, ventilation, air is not homogeneously seen. He has a subpleural bullae up to 8 millimeters in diameter. We did a BAL, and he has a protein C surfactant deficiency. He looks a little funny. I didn't upload pictures, but I have the right to show them if interested. He has a central cataract on the left side. He has a problem with urine transport on his right kidney. And he has relatively enlarged, not really big hydrocephalus ventricles on ultrasound of the brain. So there is something more than just a pulmonary disease there. And my question is, does anybody has an idea? I discussed this case already with Matthias Griese, who did the surfactant analysis and some genetics, and we haven't solved it. The patient is getting better, so it's not an urgent panel. Yeah. So, and I haven't discussed it before. This is what's shown here in the initial data I entered. Now I entered some family history, which tells us we don't know anything. There's no other family member involved or affected. I could draw a pedigree here, but there's no pedigree to draw right now. I did code the different findings like congenital cataract on the left side, kidney disorder, Yeah, he's a preterm infant, 35 plus 0 weeks of gestational age. He was small for gestational age, so all the information is there and coded. And I entered some additional information like the BAL findings, the surfactant findings, and the gene panel, which was done. So I have the option also to enter free text. I told you if I don't know what to do, I can always look here at the information button, and I hope it shows now that there's information on coding standards and version used in a documentation section, and you can just jump there and check, which I won't do right now for time reasons, but you can play with the system very nicely. And I did upload several forms and data from X-rays and CT torax. And I did save in the end all my information. I could also add here surgical procedures, transplantation, medication, special treatments, intervention, health behavior, but all these factors are not important for our case. We don't have a rare disease diagnosis, but if my question would be how to treat a patient, I would give obviously the diagnosis here. I didn't code comorbidities because for me this is diagnosis rather than comorbidities with a cataract and all the other diagnosis. And I could also code here phenotypic and genetic features in the system, which I haven't done yet. It takes quite a while to do this. So you see a lot of information can be entered there. And in the end, I can either cancel or save. If I save, the system will ask me, why on earth did you change your data entries? So I will hit the cancel button right now. The next step could be that we schedule a meeting to discuss this patient face to face. However, we could also go to assessments where everybody can send a written statement of what he thinks this patient may have or what should be done as a next step for diagnosis. I'm trying to open one of this here now. It worked nicely yesterday. Here we are. This is now the DICOM viewer. I opened the CT scan of the thorax, and I can should be able, I hope it's quick, to open one of these here. Usually it's opening right away if I hit the button. I'm not sure what it's doing right now. That's what you want to happen once you are. Usually I can show it as a single. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing right now here. We go here. So at least it's a little bit bigger, but it's supposedly you can actually have it as a full screen. But I think what you can see here is that we can all see the CT scan of this boy, which was taken some months ago, so it's not very actual. He was about a year old at that time, and you probably can see that, yeah, there is no air trapping really, but the whole lung seems to be a little bit hypolucent. And here you see the subpleural cysts. And everybody who is in the system and involved with this case can actually have a look at the CT scans and at all the other, here we are, and all the other X-rays or images available. I can then close this again and say, okay, I want to show something else, or I want to discuss things. Are there any questions right now with respect to what I've shown you so far? Shall we have a look at specific parts of the system?
Well, I have a.
Or we have a.
Yeah.
Thomas? Thomas wanted to ask a question, but I think his system was echoing.
Is it better now?
A little.
Okay, I'll try again. Did you have any problems in getting organized how to upload CT scans? Can you use it from your local system, or do you have to export the data onto a CD and then enter the data at your workstation, or do you have a connection to your central medical system in your hospital?
No, I do it by hand via CD, which works really nice and easy. Probably you could even move the data from the hospital system to a folder and bring them by hand from the folder into the system, or you could actually connect your hospital IT system to this CPMS. I think for the few patients so far, it's much easier to do it via CD than to get all these connections working.
That would be important to communicate to all our members, so their fear of having a very complicated system to integrate into a very complicated hospital system is probably not so realistic. It's probably easier to take the local approach on your local workstation.
Yeah, no, this local approach really works very easy. As far as I could tell, but I haven't tried it lately, you can upload up to 1,000 or 1,200 images at a time.
Okay.
If you have MRI data and you have like many series, sometimes you have more than 1,000 images. But for CTs, X-rays anyway, ultrasounds, echocardiography, whatever, it works very simple. And it's pretty quick actually. At least the connection here from our hospital. So the CT was in there within like less than a minute.
But the system takes off the personal identification data, so you use a very normal CD with the data, and then the system extracts just the pictures without the identifying data. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what I do is I'm switching back now to the slide here I showed before. I go into the CD and I can show you the CD maybe. I don't want to share all the information, obviously, because the CD has identifying information on it. And within the CD, there is a series of images. Okay. Yeah, and in our system exports, it's a Siemens system. Other people probably have a different outline of their CDs, but in our system, each series of a CT is within one folder, and each image has a number on it, like here, like number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a different CT images, and I just move the images to the left. Yeah, I drag and drop the images from here to here.
Okay.
And that's it. So it's not a simple extraction mode. Maybe there is a simple extraction mode available, but what I really do, I go into the folders until I come to the folder with all the images in it, and I just grab the images and move it over.
Okay.
Yeah, and on the CD, I have a separate folder for the next X-ray because I have more than one investigation on the CD, right? I had the ultrasound, I have CT thorax, I have X-rays of the thorax, I have different things. So I have to move from one folder to the other and only import all images belonging to one investigation. And then I use the label down here to say this is a CT thorax taken in February 2019, for example. I don't give the exact date, but I say it's February. And since I have the birth date, not exactly, but very close, I can always find out when the CT, how old the patient was when the CT scan was done.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, and if you remember, I can go back once more here, for example, for a X-ray of the thorax. Now I know how to navigate here, right? Close. This is the X-ray, and you can tell the X-ray was taken. This was the left side. It was an AP view. The patient was lying down. It's all in German, unfortunately, but all the identifying information is not there anymore. If there would be identifying information on this, and I always check, I would delete it right away from the system. Okay. Yeah. All you know here is our way of telling people that this is a male patient and 0001. This is the nickname I gave the patient. Yeah. Once you enter a patient into the system, you give a nickname which can be shared with everybody else. And since in our hospital we don't want to share anything, so we say it's male 0001, assuming that we will not enter more than 9,999 male patients in the next years.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good.
Any other questions? That doesn't seem the case. We could now go ahead and look whether anybody has accepted the invitation to join the panel. And I have here on the right side always the timelines. Yeah, you can see I entered the patient on the 24th of June, which is this week, Monday. Yeah, I moved it to panel selection. As a person who entered the patient, I'm automatically the panel lead. And then I invited many people as a panel. And these people are shown down here. And you can see was invited to join the panel, was invited, but none of them has yet accepted the invitation. Okay, so it's difficult now to schedule a meeting. Nevertheless, we just go ahead and schedule a meeting. Yeah, title of meeting, I don't know, patient discussion on diagnosis. Further actions, something like that. Yeah, how do we come to a diagnosis? Sometimes, yeah. Description, more or less the same thing, right? Okay, I just entered something.
May I ask a question? I
Sure.
just checked the system whether I have any panel invitations, because did you invite me to that panel you just showed?
I invited everybody we can check. I will just finish this one here and say we want an individual meeting. I put it for today, but nobody will be joining today. I know this. We say we want to start the meeting at 10:48. Duration 10 minutes. Schedule meeting. Let's see what's happening. Upcoming meeting. Participants. Now I'm the only one. I can invite now, for example, Here we go and invite you. Let's see whether you get an invitation.
Okay, because at the moment I have not been invited. I have no right to look into the case,
Yeah, I have the same message. It says you have no unanswered invitations at this time. And I can see that you've created the panel, but it says you have no permission to view the clinical data.
Oh, that's crazy. We will maybe I close this now.
I think there's a difference between a panel and a meeting. So I think if you create a meeting and invite people, it should be easier.
Yeah, I can invite people into the meeting, and that's what we are doing right now. So Thomas should have gotten an invitation now to the meeting. We try whether we can also invite Kirtana.
I got my patient discussion on diagnosis, further actions, large grand round to end. Yes, I got this. Yeah,
and
okay.
Then you can join meeting.
So I will accept now. Okay, I have accepted now.
Okay.
But that was sent today on 10:48, so I have not been invited before. Okay, yeah, thank you.
We have to solve the question, what happens to the panel invitations? Maybe that's too many invitations at a time.
Yeah, I received the meeting invitation as well, and I accepted it.
Okay, and then you can join the meeting. And usually if you join the meeting, you may be able to also share your video if you have any. So you should see me right now in the GoToMeeting, but also as a picture in the CPMS meeting. Can you see me?
Yeah, I can. Well,
on the screen?
Unfortunately, I did not use the Chrome browser to log into the EU
then you are not able to attend the meeting.
To restart the EU login again. Okay, sorry to interrupt you, but I think this is exactly what we need. Thank you very much.
But I think Kirtana, can you join the meeting?
Hi, sorry, I made the same mistake as Thomas. I logged in with Safari, so I'm now relogging in using Chrome. Sorry.
Okay, so everybody realizes that you should really use the Chrome system. You can follow everything until you come to the real meeting stuff. Yeah, the meetings will not work on other browsers. Fortunately, I could convince my hospital IT people to allow me to use Google Chrome. Sometimes this may also be a problem. And then it would make sense to have like a private laptop which is connected to the internet via VLAN or something else to make sure that you can join and really attend the meetings. Kirtana, I still don't see you, and Thomas, I don't see you either.
No, it will take a while.
I'm here.
Okay, so maybe there you are. So everybody can at least appreciate that it works. We see now Kirtana and myself on the screen, and once Thomas joins, he will also be seen, so we can see each other, but we can also then mute ourselves. We can share the screen, not only by the WebEx meeting, but also by this tool. And obviously, during a meeting, I wouldn't mind also to show a picture of a patient. I wouldn't enter pictures necessarily in the system. It's a little bit a gray zone because you're not supposed to send any identifying information into the CPMS on one hand side. On the other side, sometimes if you have a funny looking child, there's nothing else you can do. You have to share the face in order to discuss the patient. So this could be done via video meeting here. I think we log out now, Kirtana. This was just for demonstration purpose only. And I'm also leaving the meeting now. But I think we have covered many things until the step we get to the meeting and meeting invitation. As I said, you can have the meeting here at this moment, and then you can continue entering data. We can move forward to assessment. You can still schedule meetings. You as a panel member can request additional data. So I can enter more data here or say, sorry, we just don't have this data. So it's a very communicative system, and the main thing is you need to have access. And obviously we have to make sure that all the invitations get to you, because the system tells me they have been invited and apparently they are not. And this is a problem, which I cannot solve right now. I invited everybody. Maybe this is too many people at a time. Thomas was invited here. Kirtana was invited. I'm sure she was somewhere on the list. I'm not sure. Here you are. So everybody really should receive an invitation. Once you get an invitation, you should get an email telling you you have to do something in the system, so you don't have to log in every day to check your boxes, but you will be prompted by an email to really join the meeting. I think I will log out now here, because we wanted to have opportunity for questions and answers on our last minutes. So is there anybody having any questions what we should address? Probably everybody's muted.
Is there a difference between who can be invited to the panel depending on the role that they have chosen while registering?
We had the feeling there was a difference. I'm not sure whether there is a difference anymore. I did invite everybody now, and obviously everybody was sent an invitation. At least that's what the system says. So the system didn't refuse. I remember that when we scheduled the last meetings, we invited also Petra Pennekam, for example, who is a researcher, who is not a physician. But just in case whoever is working as a physician or a healthcare provider and who wants to become involved into the panels, I would suggest make sure that your role is healthcare provider, maybe with additional roles in other areas. So you can be invited. I'm not sure, really. Supposedly researchers shouldn't be able to attend, but apparently it worked some time ago. I'm not sure whether it would work now, because we couldn't invite everybody. Obviously, the invitations didn't get through. And you have a special role, I think, and Thomas has a special role, so we cannot use you or Thomas to figure out whether it's working. Any further questions? That doesn't seem to be the case, so we are in time. I thank everybody for attending. I see we had 9 people with us, and as I said, the slides will be distributed afterwards. And all of us, I think, are very happy to answer questions as far as we can answer them. And my feeling is, for some parts, we will have to go back to all this information I showed you in the beginning, where we may find answers to our questions. Or there are also people at the CPMS itself and at the EU who may be able to answer our questions in the end. The good news is that many people from ERN Lung now have access to the CPMS. So we should really start to use it. And my suggestion would be, that we schedule some fixed meetings where we discuss some patients who are already entered, and there may also be patients with very short questions and answers, so it may be quicker than a full case of completely unknown disease. Thank you very much for listening, and hope to talk to you soon and see you in one of the CPMS meetings. Bye.